"No authorization, no entry," she snapped, her voice slicing through the blaring sirens. There she stood, Karen Delmont, the self-appointed ruler of Willow Creek Estates, blocking the front gate with her polished silver SUV. The ambulance lights flickered across her oversized sunglasses as she folded her arms, completely unmoved while the paramedics begged her to clear the way. I was halfway down my driveway, still wearing my medic uniform, when a reality hit me. The ambulance wasn't there for a random neighbor. It was for someone inside our community, someone fighting for her life. And the only thing standing between her and immediate medical care was Karen and her ridiculous rule book. One paramedic shouted, "Ma'am, this is an emergency." Karen only smirked. Rules are rules. No vehicle enters without HOA clearance. That was when I saw the girl inside the ambulance, and my stomach dropped. The patient wasn't just anyone. She was the mayor's daughter. Before we go any further into this unbelievable situation, tell me where you're watching from, and don't forget to subscribe for more HOA Tales.times. When I first moved into Willow Creek Estates, I truly thought I had found peace. After 20 years working as a paramedic in the city, sirens, emergencies, sleepless nights, I wanted quiet mornings, coffee on the porch, and the gentle hiss of sprinklers instead of alarms. The brochures described the neighborhood as a community built on order and pride. That should have been my first warning. In Willow Creek, order and pride meant one thing: Karen Delmont. Karen wasn't just the HOA president. She acted like the sheriff, judge, and executioner of the neighborhood. In her early 50s, hair stiff with hairspray like armor, she drove her silver SUV as if she were patrolling her territory. Every morning, she rolled past houses with her windows slightly down and a clipboard in hand, ready to issue violations over the smallest imperfection. Within my first month, I received 3 notices. One for leaving my garbage bin out 45 minutes past pickup. Another for unauthorized emergency signage on my garage, meaning my medic response decal. And the third, my personal favorite, for displaying a non-standard flag. It was the American flag. When I called for clarification, Karen replied in her calm, patronizing tone, "It's not about patriotism, Mr. Bennett. It's about uniform aesthetics." Uniform aesthetics. Translation: individuality was not welcome. My neighbor, old Mr. Peters, once warned me, "Around here, you either follow Karen's rules or she makes your life miserable." I laughed at the time. Gradually, though, I saw the pattern. She fined an elderly couple for having too many flower pots. She scolded a single mother because a bicycle was parked crooked. She once measured someone's grass with a ruler. But the real tension began with my ambulance. I kept my old emergency van parked in my driveway, a fully functional ambulance I bought after retiring. I use it strictly for volunteer work and free medical outreach in rural areas. I wasn't running a business. I wasn't charging anyone. But to Karen, it was a commercial vehicle. One morning, I woke up to a bright orange sticker on my windshield. Notice of HOA violation. Commercial equipment storage prohibited. I walked over to Karen's SUV as she idled near the gate, sipping from a mug labeled Queen of the HOA. She lowered her window with a satisfied smile. "Good morning, Mr. Bennett. I trust you saw the notice. It's nothing personal. We must enforce the bylaws consistently." "Karen," I replied, keeping my tone steady, "that's an ambulance. I'm a licensed paramedic. It's for emergencies, not business." She gave a soft laugh, the kind that made it clear she wasn't listening. "Rules are rules, dear. Perhaps you can store it somewhere else." "Like where?" "The hospital." She didn't blink. "That's not my concern." From that day on, I became her latest project. She slowed her SUV in front of my house to take pictures. She emailed reminders about driveway cleanliness. Once, she even claimed my porch light was too bright and disruptive to neighborhood harmony. So I began documenting everything, screenshots, letters, timestamps. Not out of revenge, but because after 2 decades in emergency services, I knew one truth. When someone with too much authority starts playing games, documentation is your best defense. I stayed civil. I ignored her comments, paid the minor fines, and continued helping neighbors whenever I could. I hoped she would eventually focus on someone else. But Karen thrived on control. HOA meetings were her stage. She stood before residents waving stacks of paperwork, like royal decrees. "We must maintain standards," she would announce. "We are the face of Willow Creek." One evening, I attended a meeting out of curiosity. The topic, community vehicle compliance. She projected a photo of my ambulance onto the screen. "This," she declared dramatically, "is what lowers property values." I raised my hand. "That's my vehicle. It's legal under county code for first responders." She smiled coldly. "Then perhaps, Mr. Bennett, you should consider relocating somewhere that doesn't prioritize visual order." The room fell silent. That was her strategy. Humiliate, isolate, dominate. I had no idea how far she would take it. 3 weeks later, the HOA hosted its annual charity barbecue by the community pool. I wasn't planning to go, but my neighbor Linda convinced me. "Come on, Tom. You never socialize. It'll be good for you." So I went. Families laughed. Kids played. Music drifted through the air. For once, it felt normal. Karen, of course, stood at the center, handing out flyers titled New HOA Safety Policies, dressed in a bright pink blazer and a carefully practiced smile. Around 3 p.m., a scream cut through the music. A young woman collapsed near the buffet table. Panic spread instantly. People shouted for help. Instinct took over. I rushed forward, knelt beside her, and checked her pulse. She was pale, struggling to breathe, maybe 20 years old. "Call 911. I shouted. Someone did. I began CPR, counting compressions as training kicked in. Minutes stretched endlessly. Finally, I heard the distant siren approaching. Relief flooded me. Then the siren stopped. No engine entered. No flashing lights past the gate. Just silence. I looked toward the entrance, and my stomach sank. The ambulance sat outside, lights spinning uselessly behind the closed HOA gate. Karen's SUV was parked sideways across the entrance, blocking the lane. Even from across the lawn, I could hear her arguing about unauthorized entry. I sprinted toward the gate, disbelief pounding in my chest. "Move the car, Karen." I yelled. She turned calmly. "They didn't sign in." "It's an ambulance. Someone's dying." "Then they can wait until they complete the proper access form," she replied sharply. The paramedics were honking, trying to reason with her through the window. She stood firm, talking about HOA liability. "Karen, if you don't move this car right now..." She cut me off. "You are not in charge here, Mr. Bennett. I am." I will never forget that expression. Calm, smug, disconnected, holding her clipboard like it was a badge of authority. Through the intercom, the paramedics shouted, "We need access now. Patient in cardiac distress." Karen crossed her arms over her pink blazer. "You cannot enter Willow Creek Estates without prior authorization or a resident escort." The driver leaned out. "This is an emergency response vehicle." "Then contact dispatch for proper HOA clearance." Every second she delayed could mean brain damage. Or worse. I ran closer, waving my arms. "Karen, it's me, Tom Bennett. Let them through." She smiled politely. "Mr. Bennett, please calm down. This behavior is inappropriate." "Inappropriate? Someone is dying. Please refrain from offensive language. We are a family community." Behind her, the red lights reflected off the guardhouse walls. The paramedics were forced to drag equipment through the narrow pedestrian gate, struggling with a defibrillator and oxygen bags. "Sir, we need the gate open," one of them yelled. "We can't carry everything fast enough." I turned back to Karen. "Move your SUV. Now." Her voice turned icy. "If I make one exception, everyone will expect one. Rules exist for a reason. You think a rule book outranks a human life?" "Yes," she answered without hesitation. I pulled out my phone and began recording. "This is what happens when an HOA president values gate codes over heartbeats," I said. She tried to cover her face. "You can't record me without consent." "Watch me." Neighbors gathered, shocked and angry. Still, she refused to move. I lowered my voice one final time. "There's a young woman over there. She could die. Just open the gate." Her reply was cold. Then her parents should have filled out the emergency access form. That was the breaking point. We rushed back to the barbecue area. The girl was still unconscious, lips pale, breathing shallow. Severe cardiac arrhythmia, possibly heat-related. We set up the defibrillator on the grass, charging to 200. Clear. Her body jolted. A faint pulse returned, then weakened again. Compressions. Oxygen. Repeat. After what felt endless, a rhythm stabilized. She's responding. A medic said. We lifted her onto the stretcher and carried her toward the gate. Karen still stood there, arms crossed. Move the vehicle or we will ram it, one paramedic shouted. She rolled her eyes. Threats from public employees? I'll be filing complaint. Karen, I said slowly, you are obstructing a medical rescue. That's a felony. She hesitated, just briefly. Open the gate now, I continued, or every cop, lawyer, and judge in this county will know your name. After a long pause, she climbed into her SUV and reversed just enough for the ambulance to pass. As it sped away, I exhaled for first time in nearly an hour. She brushed invisible dust from her sleeve. Ungrateful residents, she muttered. I raised my phone again. You delayed emergency medical treatment by 15 minutes. Do you understand that? Her smile remained fixed, and yet she's alive. Perhaps you should thank me for preventing escalation. 2 days later, that exact sentence aired on every news channel in the city. Within hours of posting the video, it had tens of thousands of views. Comments flooded in. This woman should be arrested. HOA presidents are the final boss of suburbia. I hope the patient is okay. Around midnight, Linda knocked on my door, pale and shaken. Tom, you won't believe who that girl was. She's Chloe Hammond, she whispered. The mayor's daughter. He's already at the hospital, and he's seen your video. I stood there, phone still buzzing, finally understanding the full weight of what had happened. Karen Delmont hadn't just blocked an ambulance. She had nearly let the mayor's daughter die, on camera, in broad daylight, while quoting HOA policy. And now, the entire world had seen it. By the next morning, everything had changed. Karen Delmont was suspended from the HOA pending an official investigation. The city launched an inquiry into obstruction of emergency services. The HOA board released a carefully worded statement about policy failures and temporary leadership restructuring, but no amount of corporate language could soften what people had seen with their own eyes. The mayor held a press conference later that day. His voice shook as he confirmed his daughter was stable and expected to recover fully. Then he played the video, not for shock value, but as evidence. This, he said, is why no private rule, no neighborhood policy, and no self-appointed authority will ever outrank a human life. Within a week, Willow Creek Estates quietly removed its gate. The guardhouse was abandoned. New emergency access rules were posted. Simple, clear, and impossible to misinterpret. If emergency lights were flashing, the gate stayed open. No forms. No clearance. No exceptions. Karen never returned to another HOA meeting. Her silver SUV disappeared from the neighborhood shortly after. Some said she moved. Others said she was advised to. Either way, her clipboard never came back. As for me, I didn't post another video. I didn't need to. The message was already out there. Power without accountability is dangerous, and when it meets arrogance, it becomes deadly. A young woman lived because people refused to look away. And Willow Creek finally learned what community was supposed to mean.